In January 2015, Qatar Airways became the launch customer for the Airbus A350, marking a significant milestone in the airline's evolution and in commercial aviation. The A350 family represented a new generation of aircraft, incorporating advanced aerodynamics, next-generation engines, and a fuselage built predominantly from carbon fiber composites rather than traditional aluminum. Just a few years later, Qatar Airways followed up by taking delivery of the larger A350-1000 variant, solidifying their position as one of the most progressive carriers in the world. These aircraft were positioned not just as tools for transportation, but as a statement of Qatar Airways' commitment to luxury, efficiency, and technological leadership. On paper, the partnership between Qatar Airways and Airbus seemed flawless. Qatar Airways would operate the world's second-largest A350 fleet, using these aircraft to dominate long and medium-haul routes across every continent. The airline's marketing campaigns highlighted the A350 as the jewel in its premium product line, emphasizing comfort, efficiency, and advanced technology. The aircraft helped Qatar Airways win accolades year after year, including multiple Skyris World's Best Airline Awards, and became central to the airline's global brand strategy. Yet, behind the polished PR and ribbon-cutting ceremonies, tensions were quietly simmering. The first signs of trouble appeared as early as 2016. Qatar Airways noticed that the paint on some of its A350 aircraft was chipping and showing signs of degradation. This issue was minor at first, cosmetic rather than structural, but it affected the pristine livery that symbolized the airline's premium image. Other operators reported similar concerns to Airbus around the same time, and the manufacturer responded with a standard warranty approach. Damaged sections were repainted, and refinements were made to improve paint adhesion on future aircraft. For several years, this approach was sufficient, and the relationship between Airbus and Qatar Airways remained smooth. Everything changed in 2020 as Qatar prepared for the FIFA World Cup in 2022, a historic event set to take place in Doha. One of Qatar Airways' A350 aircraft was sent to Shannon, Ireland, for a special World Cup livery transformation. During the removal of the existing paint, technicians made a startling discovery. The damage was not confined to the surface layers. The metallic mesh embedded within the carbon fiber composite, designed to protect the aircraft from lightning strikes, showed signs of degradation in certain areas. This mesh is critical because carbon fiber, while strong, conducts electricity less effectively than aluminum, requiring this embedded metallic network to safely dissipate lightning currents. A failure in the mesh could theoretically compromise safety, though in practice, the protective design has multiple redundancies. The discovery of this degradation caused immediate concern at Qatar Airways. While the paint issue itself was minor, the potential implications for lightning strike protection were serious in the eyes of the airline's management. Airbus, in collaboration with the European Aviation Safety Agency, launched a thorough investigation into the issue. Their findings were clear. The problem was cosmetic. While the appearance of the aircraft needed attention, the integrity of the lightning protection system remained intact. In other words, the aircraft were perfectly safe to fly. Despite this, Qatar Airways adopted an aggressive stance. They demanded a full root cause analysis, insisted on compensation for the perceived problem, and refused delivery of additional A350 aircraft until their concerns were resolved. Qatar Airways' approach reflected the airline's corporate culture under CEO Akbar Al Baker. Known for his obsession with perfection, Al Baker had built Qatar Airways into a global leader in luxury aviation. Yet, this same exacting philosophy fostered a management style that many within the industry considered extreme. Cabin crew faced strict curfews, limiting movement between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m., while social media policies were rigidly enforced. and disciplinary measures could be harsh. The airline was notorious for rejecting aircraft deliveries over minor imperfections, from carpet inconsistencies to paint issues. Airbus had long accepted these demands as part of doing business with one of the world's most demanding customers. By August 2021, Qatar Airways escalated the dispute. They grounded 13 A350 aircraft, publicly citing airworthiness concerns despite the lack of corroborating evidence from any global aviation authority. At this point, what had started as a paint adhesion issue had become an unprecedented corporate and legal battle. Airbus reacted decisively. The manufacturer firmly rejected Qatar Airways' claims of safety violations and refused to provide the compensation being demanded. Airbus stood by the investigations conducted with the European Aviation Safety Agency and offered collaborative solutions to resolve the cosmetic issues, maintaining aircraft operational readiness. Qatar Airways did not back down. Instead, they intensified their demands, threatening to withhold additional deliveries and take legal action. This strategy aimed to coerce Airbus into meeting compensation demands and other contractual concessions. Observers noted the audacity of this approach, an airline using alleged airworthiness issues, unsupported by regulatory authorities, to pressure a manufacturer with billions of dollars at stake. Yet, for Qatar Airways, this reflected a calculated negotiation tactic, albeit one that would soon have dramatic consequences. The situation became even more complex as Airbus countered Qatar Airways' moves. In response to the grounding and the escalating dispute, Airbus filed a counterclaim seeking damages of $220 million. Airbus argued that Qatar Airways had breached contractual obligations by refusing to accept delivery of newly manufactured A350 aircraft. In addition, Airbus canceled all remaining aircraft on Qatar Airways' order book, including 19 A350 aircraft either completed or in production. These were not ordinary orders. They were tailored for Qatar Airways with specific configurations to support the airline's expansion plans. The cancellation sent a clear signal. Airbus would not be intimidated, even at significant financial cost. The dispute triggered the activation of cross-default clauses embedded within the contractual framework. These clauses allowed Airbus to terminate separate orders if one contract was materially breached. Qatar Airways had counted on these clauses for its fleet expansion, particularly for A321neo aircraft intended to strengthen short and medium-haul operations. The A321neo was in extremely high demand, with a global backlog approaching 5,000 aircraft at the time. By invoking cross-default provisions, Airbus effectively canceled Qatar Airways' future deliveries of A321neo aircraft, representing a major strategic and financial setback for the airline. In a swift response, Qatar Airways sought legal recourse in British courts, arguing that the A321neo cancellation should be treated separately from the A350 dispute. Simultaneously, Qatar Airways pivoted to Boeing, negotiating one of the fastest major aircraft deals in aviation history. Within just over a week of Airbus' cancellation, Qatar Airways placed an order for 25 Boeing 737 MAX 10 aircraft, with options for an additional 25. The irony was stark. Qatar Airways had grounded, perfectly airworthy A350 aircraft over cosmetic concerns while now ordering Boeing 737 MAX aircraft, which had recently returned to service following 2 catastrophic crashes claiming 346 lives. Critics noted the contradiction, as Qatar appeared to deem the MAX unsafe while alleging safety risks with the Airbus A350. Behind the legal maneuvering and high-profile orders, Qatar Airways faced operational chaos. The grounded A350 fleet created a severe capacity gap, coinciding with the lead-up to the FIFA World Cup in November 2022. Millions of visitors were expected, placing unprecedented demand on the airline's fleet. To meet operational requirements, Qatar Airways was forced to resurrect retired aircraft, including 14 Airbus A330s and 10 Airbus A380s. Returning these aircraft from long-term storage was a monumental task. Mothballed aircraft undergo extensive preservation, including draining fuel systems, replacing hydraulic fluids with protective substitutes, inspecting engines, and testing electrical and mechanical systems. Reactivating wide-body aircraft like the A330 or the A380 can cost millions per aircraft and take weeks of work, far more complex than simply bringing a car out of storage. The irony was compounded in the case of the Airbus A380 fleet. Qatar Airways had publicly declared in 2019 that the aircraft were the airline's biggest mistake, intending to retire them after only 5 years of service, a fraction of the typical operational lifespan of 25 to 30 years. Yet, due to the A350 dispute, all 10 A380 aircraft had to be returned to service, creating significant financial and logistical strain. Each aircraft required meticulous inspection, system reactivation, and certification flights to ensure airworthiness. This process drained resources, delayed operational planning, and forced Qatar Airways to expend hundreds of millions of dollars to maintain adequate capacity. The legal battles progressed through British courts with increasingly unfavorable rulings for Qatar Airways. Judges upheld Airbus's cross-default claims, affirming that Qatar Airways' refusal to accept A350 deliveries constituted a material breach justifying cancellation of the A321neo orders. The court also ordered Qatar Airways to provide concrete evidence supporting its original airworthiness claims, challenging the airline to substantiate regulatory concerns that had previously gone unverified. Faced with mounting legal pressure and the inability to produce evidence of genuine safety risks, Qatar Airways opted for a confidential settlement with Airbus in February 2023. The settlement terms were not publicly disclosed, but the timing and subsequent actions spoke volumes. Airbus agreed to reinstate some of the canceled A350 and A321neo orders, but with delivery schedules significantly delayed. Aircraft that were originally scheduled to enter service in 2023 were postponed until 2026, representing a 3-year disruption to Qatar Airways' expansion and operational plans. The delay had profound implications, particularly in the context of fleet planning, route expansion, and preparation for major events like the World Cup. The fallout extended to leadership at Qatar Airways. CEO Akbar Al Baker, whose uncompromising pursuit of perfection had driven both innovation and conflict, resigned. His departure marked the end of an era characterized by aggressive negotiation tactics, public disputes, and a relentless focus on branding and luxury. The new leadership committed to fostering a culture of trust and collaboration, signaling a strategic shift aimed at avoiding similar conflicts in the future. This saga illustrates the high-stakes nature of airline fleet management, corporate negotiation, and the complex interplay between airlines and manufacturers. What began as a seemingly minor paint issue evolved into a multi-billion-dollar corporate war involving grounded aircraft, canceled orders, resurrected fleets, legal battles, and leadership change. It demonstrates how reputational pride, operational perfectionism, and aggressive negotiation strategies can spiral into costly, public conflicts, even when the underlying technical concerns are minimal. For Airbus, the outcome reinforced the importance of contractual safeguards, regulatory collaboration, and the ability to maintain operational resilience under pressure from demanding customers. The manufacturer absorbed financial losses but successfully defended its contractual rights, protecting production schedules and future sales. For Qatar Airways, the lessons were costly and operationally painful. Prestige battles rarely end without compromise, and even market-leading carriers can face strategic setbacks when negotiation tactics escalate beyond reasonable bounds. By the conclusion of this dispute, hundreds of millions of dollars had been spent addressing grounded aircraft, reactivating retired fleets, and managing operational disruption. The reputational costs were also significant, as the airline's public image was challenged by the contrast between its claims of safety concerns and the subsequent orders for Boeing 737 MAX aircraft. The legal and operational saga of Qatar Airways and the Airbus A350 will be studied as one of the most extraordinary corporate conflicts in aviation history, a cautionary tale of how minor technical issues, corporate ego, and aggressive negotiation can converge into a dramatic, high-stakes battle with far-reaching consequences.